The chances of the United States slipping into an economic recession are very high and more than ever. With over 60% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, the lawmakers are concerned about how a recession could affect people's finances. Experts have already confirmed that a recession will affect Social Security in 3 different ways. Now, it's getting harder to keep up with the high prices. As of February, 60% of all adults in the United States were paying and living paycheck to paycheck, up from 60% a month earlier. And according to a new lending report, to make ends meet, more people have picked up a side hustle. So as the crisis-related benefits are scaled back, many have turned to SSI income with a side job or alternative income source to improve their financial standing. A survey showed that about 44% of Americans have a side hustle in inflation, which is a 13% jump compared to 2020. Now, the odds of the U.S. economy backsliding into a recession are higher now than ever after steady interest rate hikes by the Federal Reserve and growing risk of tighter credit conditions in the wake of several bank failures. The probability of a downturn in the next 12 months stands at 65%, up from 60% odds in February. The poll was conducted March 20 and March 27th. Now, in the aftermath of the several bank closures that included Silicon Valley Bank, with 48 economists responding about the odds of recession. Now, after the Fed last week raised the rates again for a quarter percentage point to the highest level since 2007, economists worry about the financial impacts it will have on people around the world. Now, Fed officials have doubled down on the resilient labor market as one of the reasons why inflation has remained sticky, with strong wage gains helping fuel price pressures. Economists forecast a delayed downturn in the job market and see the unemployment rate averaging around 3.9%, compared with it being 4% last month. Now, recessions have an impact on Social Security. They pose no immediate risk to America's top retirement program. The biggest reason Social Security is in danger is in 2023 to seeing benefits impacted by a recession because of the asset reserves. On a combined basis, the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund and Disability Insurance Trust Fund had nearly $2.8 trillion invested in special bonds and certificates of indebtedness as of the end of November. By law, the excess revenue collected by the Social Security is required to be invested in these special issue bonds and certificates of indebtedness, which earns the program interest from the Fed. With a boatload of asset reserves, there should be no concern for a recession. But regardless of severity, with interrupts, payouts, and even to hurt Social Security's very short-term outlook. President Biden, everybody, is now being urged to take executive action this week to help the American people financially. This executive order could be signed this week by the president, but lawmakers have opposed a few changes to it. And the good news is that the General Assembly announced that a bill has been filed to provide $300 in direct payments to Delaware taxpayers to help with the rising cost of gas and other necessities. Under the plan, which has the support of Governor John Carney, a $300 direct payment will go to every resident who filed a 2020 tax return. According to lawmakers, this is the first time Delaware has ever done a rebate program. Since the state has an unprecedented $1 billion surplus, lawmakers said they saw a rebate program as the best way to provide quick relief to people in Delaware experiencing any financial strain. The payments will go to anyone who filed a tax return in 2020, which is an estimated 600,000 residents. And there are some residents who did not file a tax return, especially seniors and low-income residents. Language in the bill filed this week says that all adult residents, even those who did not file a 2020 tax return, will receive the $300. The $300 will not be subject to Delaware income taxes. The rebate is for every individual tax filer, regardless of filing married, jointly, or separately. So a married couple would get $600. For months, Delaware lawmakers expected to have a whopping $800 million in extra revenue for this fiscal year. The Delaware Economic and Financial Advisory Council recently projected that there will be an additional $206 million in revenue for this fiscal year, resulting in a surplus of $1 billion. Lawmakers said they expect to vote on the measure next month. It's expected to sail through the General Assembly quickly because it is backed by Democratic and Republican leadership. Representative Valerie Longhurst, the state's House Majority Leader, said the hope for residents to receive the money before June 30th. So this is nice news for Delaware residents. And also, people in Maine can now check the status of their $850 relief payments using a new website from the Maine Revenue Services. The checks, which will be paid for with $730 million from the state surplus, were approved by the Maine legislature this past season as a one-time payment to help with the rising cost of inflation. The Department of Administrative and Financial Services says it mailed initial $5,000 relief checks via the U.S. Postal Service. Those are expected to arrive in mailboxes as early as this week. The department will then issue around 200,000 checks per week after that, with the vast majority of qualifying Mainers who have already filed their 2021 Maine tax return expected to receive their check by mid-July. Eligible Mainers should expect to see their checks arrive this week, and the state says it will be based on when your 2021 tax return was received. And while the tax deadline has passed, it's not too late to file a return. Mainers have until October 31st. The relief payments are also available to retirees and to those who receive Social Security and SSI, so long as they meet the eligibility criteria. With widespread student loan forgiveness has not yet become a reality, some U.S. borrowers have already received some debt relief. Roughly 1.3 million borrowers have seen $25 billion in student debt forgiveness.
Now, as the gentlewoman from Washington, Ms. Jayapal, for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was very instructive, that last 5 minutes. Let me just take on several points. The other side gives money out too. Let's be really clear. That's the $2 trillion tax cut that Donald Trump passed with Republican votes. And that is a tax cut that went to the top 10% of the country. And that's if you're generous, it went to the top 10%. So don't tell me that you don't like to give out free money, because you're giving it out all the time. Let's look at, if you want to look at a debacle, how about the debacle of what's happening right now with oil and gas companies profiteering and the profits of these corporations going up massively, even as working people across this country cannot afford their gas at the pump. This is profiteering, and it's not just by those oil companies. Look at the food companies, look at the agriculture companies. You are seeing people profiteering right now, and those are the people that our colleagues on the other side of the aisle want to help. The difference here is that Democrats want to help regular working people, folks who are struggling across the country just to make ends meet. That's what Democrats are about. And that's why when you look at the American Rescue Plan, it was an unmitigated success. And it was an unmitigated success for the right group of people, for the 90% of Americans who desperately need the help, not for the top 10% that the Republicans are always trying to deliver free